Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us. Tonight, we're focused on what the federal government is doing to boost agric production. And I've been speaking with Senator Abubakar Kyari, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, let's talk about the death of extension officers and the impact of these on Nigeria's food security. I mean, these agents function as the link between farmers, research institutes, and the government. What exactly is responsible for their shrinking numbers? Is it inadequate funding to support these officers or policy flip-flop by various governments? What exactly is happening?
Well, let me first start saying the extension workers at the states and the local governments. We have also observed and of great concern on the shrinking of number of extension workers. I believe it's what is affecting so many of other professions within the local space, like teachers and things like that. By and large, extension workers are actually the teacher's farmer. If you remember, in those days, we always see them around villages and farmlands, teaching and exposing farmers to new ideas, to fertilization policies and good agronomy practices. Today, there is that dearth of extension workers. But I would say what I have seen in Jigawa State, for instance, just on the wheat program alone, they had trained over 1,700 extension workers for that program alone. We have allocated 40,000 hectares of wheat for Jigawa State. But the other day, the governor came and expressed to us that what they have calculated is 55,000 hectares. But by and large, that is as a result of the commitment the governor and his team had made, and also the provision of extension workers. We have, even at the beginning of the wheat program, the federal government had brought in a Mexican who by name Dr. Marcos Quiñones, who was part of the Norman Borlaug Green Revolution of the 1960s and 70s in Mexico and India on wheat cultivation, where they turned around these countries and became self-sufficient in wheat. Marcos Quiñones and his team were here in November and had a train the trainers seminar in Zaria, and subsequently those master trainers went back to their states and also trained the extension workers. So these are efforts the government is doing in trying to support the issue of extension. Extension is very vital, just as seeds are also very vital. We're looking at research institutes. We're strengthening research institutes to come up with good varieties of seeds with high yield and short duration of cultivation. Because what we have today, the mantra is really yield per the small land that we have, is to increase the yield. So if you don't have good seeds and you don't have good fertilization and no good extension, so we will not achieve those yields that we're looking for that will cater our growing population. So for the rice, we have also engaged Dr. Marcos, who is also an agronomist. He is around in this country today as I'm talking to you, and will also be here till May, June, when the wet season farming commences. So I quite agree with you. The other day, we were engaging with the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy on the use of technology to extend extension services to our farmers. We can use digital platforms, you can use the GSM platforms, the communication platforms, to extend to ideas and it can be specific to a locality in the local language that they understand, and we can use these digital platforms to extend advisory and good agronomy practices to our farmers. So we are working on that, and I quite agree with you. Extension is very key. Without extension, we cannot develop agri potential that we have.
All right, good to hear that. Let's also talk about smuggling. This country is the highest rice producer in Africa, but suffering greatly from smugglers who, after enjoying government credits to cultivate this product, decide to take the rice to neighboring countries. How does the government intend to curb smuggling and hoarding?
Well, you could just see some of the steps that were taken recently. You could see customs have apprehended a lot of commodities being taken out of this country, and they have hit some successes. Just the other day, in just one day, 45 trucks were apprehended in the Ilela axis alone. So everybody is on their own and doing their best in trying to make sure that we curtail this. Like I said, if we're self-sufficient, there is nothing wrong with export. But when it's exported and government and the people of Nigeria do not derive any benefit, then that becomes smuggling, and it's not acceptable.
Right. I'm also very concerned about food storage, which is a national concern. How do we address this problem and ensure that we're able to export yam, for example?
Well, like I said, the key here is food security. We need to secure the land first before we export. Export is good, like I say, it can be an avenue to derive foreign exchange for the country. But what do we do now to take care of the domestic demand? And I think this is the aim of what government is trying to do, and trying to see that we increase production so that we can be self-sufficient and enough to export. We are also looking at collaborations with big-time investors in the agricultural field, where we can incentivize them to produce more and for our food security and also our export potential. Mr. President has given us the go-ahead to engage with the private sector and see how we can produce and secure the land.
Honorable Minister, you and your colleague, Aliyu Abdullahi, have been advising Nigerians to embrace farming. What are the modalities in place? I mean, out of the 80 million hectares of arable lands, about 50 million remain uncultivated. What's the government's plan to cultivate 500,000 hectares of farmlands kick off?
Well, like I said, you know, the 500,000 you're talking about, we probably would, because we are looking at about 117,000 for the wheat, and then 250,000 for rice. By the time you do the mathematics, and 55,000 for maize, and when we come to wet season and also dry season wheat at the end of the year, we will surpass, I believe, 1 million hectares. So the 500,000, God willing, we're going to double that, and we're working assiduously on seeing that we get good seeds and good inputs, fertilizer, and incentivize the farmers to produce more. What we are looking at today, you see a situation, these are interventions that we do, and these interventions actually have a multiplier effect. By the time you incentivize 10 farmers, for instance, you are indirectly also supporting about 15, 20 farmers along the line. Because you know what the communal type of farming in communities exist, and they as soon as when you given especially that we're doing in clusters. We're providing these inputs to clusters and to cooperatives where there could be more than, you could have one farmer registered, but probably about 2-3 farmers are benefiting from the same inputs. So I believe that we will make an impact, and I'm very optimistic that we'll make an impact within the shortest possible time.
All right. So like I said earlier, you and your colleague are asking Nigerians to embrace farming. And it's a fact that today's young people are less motivated to engage in farming. How is government going to change this narrative and make farming attractive to young people?
Well, one way is mechanization. I mean, there are implements out there that are friendly to the youths, because as it is now, the number one implement in the agricultural space is a hoe. And I keep saying that when you look at a hoe, for instance, you will never find a factory anywhere in this world that manufactures a hoe. Even hoes are manufactured in the blacksmiths of small communities, farming communities. So, like I said, Mr. President has rolled out several programs for tractorization and mechanization, which will become much easier and will be attractive to the youths. Like I said, also we are also looking at digitize the use of technology. Today there are fertilization done by drones. You have pesticides sprayed by drones, and so on and so forth. So even conveyance of produce from one end of the farm to the other are being done by drones. So we are, like I said, we are talking with even Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation in some of these things. In fact, they have a drone now that is user-friendly, that can be applied in the agricultural space. So there are several incentives, and also when you look at how you turn agriculture to business. Let me give you just an instance here. When I was in Hadejia last year in December, we started engaging the local community on how much they can make out of a hectare of wheat. I asked them what is the yield of 1 hectare of wheat, and they rightly said that it's anywhere between 80 bags to 120 bags of 50 kilos. So I just I took the minimum one, which is 80 bags, and I said, how much is the EOP, the estimates of production? How much are you going to spend in a hectare? Like I mentioned earlier, the inputs alone is 360,000 naira for a hectare for wheat. And of course, there are other costs involved: irrigation, farm hands, harvesting, and and other costs that are involved. And they said that it's about 600,000 per hectare. And I said, okay, let's go up a bit and increase it to 700,000. And we increased it to 700,000. And then when you are going to make 80 bags of wheat at the price of 50,000 per bag, that translates to 4 million. Now, by the time you remove your cost to 700, that is 3.3 million, in a matter of 4 months. So what we are saying is that once we make agriculture a business, so that people can make money out of it, not only for subsistence, but for money-making venture, we'll find a lot of youth that will come in and participate. And we are also having programs that will have the inclusion of youths and women in the agricultural space. We're going to roll out the programs very soon.
Right. Honorable Minister, you've rolled out great plans, great programs, great policies, but we know insecurity is a major cause of food shortage in the country. Won't your plans fail without adequate security?
Well, we've been talking with the state governments, we've been talking with the security agencies, and it's an unfortunate event that is going on. But like I said, we have seen drastic reduction of what was the challenge in just a matter of maybe just a year. When you see even my state, for instance, Borno State, there's a huge reduction in the insecurity over there. And this year, even the governor has provided 7 irrigation sites for dry season alone, and it's secured land. And several states have been telling us that there's drastic reduction in the insecurity aspect in the southeast, in the northwest, in the northeast, in the north central, and all over southwest and south. So I believe we're going to achieve bountiful harvest once that aspect is taken care of.
Right. We hope as government continues to do everything to mitigate this hardship on citizens, we sincerely hope these efforts materialize in good times and things stabilize as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. I've been speaking with Senator Abubakar Kyari, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. Thank you so much for coming in politics tonight. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight, but the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke. Good night, everyone.